General discovered an amazing secret after following his soldier for 30 days, leaving him heart-wrenched. General James Bennett stood at the edge of Main Street, the once bustling heart of Maplewood, now a shadow of its former self. The flag still waved proudly above the weathered storefronts, but a creeping sadness hung in the air. For a man used to the authority of command, the silence was deafening. The clang of a half-closed hardware store echoed memories of orders barked and lives saved. Yet, here he was, retired and lost trying to find purpose. His eyes followed Private Eric Thompson, a boy barely out of his teens, who had returned from deployment just a few months ago. Bennett sensed darkness cloaking the young soldier, and somewhere in his heart, he couldn't ignore it. This was a battle Eric fought with the same grit he once knew. Maybe by understanding Eric's struggles, Bennett could finally come to terms with his own past. So he decided he would shadow Eric for 30 days to uncover the truth lurking in the shadows. Every morning, Bennett slipped into the young soldier's world. As dawn melted the frost from Maplewood's rooftops, he saw Eric waking up in a cluttered apartment, the faint sounds of a cough wafting from the other room, his mother's illness looming like a dark cloud. Yet, even before heading to his double shift at the local hardware store, Eric painted. Those vivid brush strokes seemed to capture his buried dreams, as if he were searching for hope among the bristles of his palette. Bennett watched, his heart tightening at the evidence of a vibrant artist spread far too thin. One afternoon, while sitting unnoticed in the store, a summer storm unleashed its fury. Wind howled like 1,000 battle cries, rattling the windows and sending customers scrambling. But in the chaos, it was Eric's voice that rose above the din. "We can do this. We've always made it through." He rallied the remaining customers, urging them to help when the building began flooding. Bennett's heart raced. It wasn't battlefield heroics, but there was something raw and powerful about Eric's bravery helping neighbors, displaying resilience in the face of disaster. Bennett felt the weight of his past lift just slightly as he witnessed what real courage looked like. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A week later, with a community flooded with gratitude, they gathered for Eric's art exhibit. Each painting alongside powerful stories spoke volumes. Families came together, mesmerized by the vivid imagery reflecting struggle, loyalty, and hope. The atmosphere buzzed with admiration and silent judgments mingling in the air. General Bennett found himself among the crowd, wrestling with the growing conviction that heroism wasn't just found on the battlefield. But as Eric shared his journey alongside each painting, a dark thought crept in. What would happen when the last light of admiration faded? Would every unspoken word slide back into the shadows of doubt? Just as hope filled the crowded room, the real edge of transformation hung in the balance. As Bennett looked at Eric, he felt a tightness in his chest. Would he bravely step into his own light, ready to confront the very prejudices he once held? In that moment, the answer felt just out of reach, leaving both men suspended in uncertainty in a world waiting for change. The night after the exhibit, General Bennett lay awake in his old, creaking bed. Shadows danced around his room as the streetlights flickered through the window. He couldn't escape the feeling that something pivotal had shifted, yet he felt equally tethered to fear. Thoughts of Eric haunted him. The clarity he had seen in Eric's eyes when he spoke about his art felt like a mirror reflecting back the soldier-s of years ago. Would he ever find that light again? In the days following the exhibit, Eric seemed to withdraw a little, his vibrant energy dimmed by the weight of aftermath. Bennett noticed him less at the hardware store and more in the soft glow of his art studio, where the door was permanently ajar, as if he were inviting a ghost rather than a visitor. One rainy Thursday afternoon, Bennett decided to visit Eric. He felt an urgency to connect, to ensure the boy understood that he wasn't alone. As he stood on the doorstep, he hesitated, keenly aware of the distance that had grown between them. Finally, gathering his resolve, he knocked. "Come in." The voice was quiet, barely escaping the threshold. As Bennett stepped inside, he was met with a melange of scents: paint, damp canvas, and something that smelled painfully like loss. Eric sat at a cluttered table, head bent, fingers stained with paint, staring intently at a blank canvas. It felt like he was trying to conjure something from the void, something just beyond reach. "Eric," Bennett began, his voice soft, almost a whisper. "Can we talk?" The young soldier looked up, surprise flashing in his eyes. "General, I didn't expect you." "I know, but I wanted to check on you. You've been quiet since the exhibit." Eric offered a weak smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, it's just overwhelming." Bennett moved closer, instinctively seeking to bridge the gap. "What you created was incredible. The way you captured your struggles, many people felt it. I felt it. But it seems like you're carrying something heavier now." With a heavy sigh, Eric dropped his gaze back to the canvas. "I'm proud of what I did. But once the applause faded, I'm just Eric again. Just a kid who can't seem to find his footing." Bennett's heart ached for him. The weight of expectation that turned into a suffocating silence could drown even the brightest spirits. Heroism isn't defined by grand gestures. What you've done, how you've led your community, that's more than I ever did with a rifle. Eric's eyes flickered with doubt. "But I don't feel like a hero, General. I feel lost." "Maybe we're all a little lost," Bennett replied. "But perhaps it's in finding our way together that we discover who we are meant to be." In that moment, Bennett realized that the shadows haunting them both had a common root: the fear of vulnerability. Both men stood on the precipice of change, wondering if they would have the courage to leap. Eric looked up, a spark igniting in his clouded eyes. "What if I'm scared to show it? Then let us be scared together. The truth is powerful, even when it's haunting. Let it out." Tentatively, Eric picked up a brush, hesitant but determined. "All right, maybe I could try." As the brush met the canvas, Bennett felt a surge of hope, echoing the promise of revelation. Maybe this would be the moment each of them needed to embrace their truths and show the world their strength. Little did they know, an unexpected visitor lurked just outside the door. Someone from Eric's past with a secret that could unravel everything. The air thickened with anticipation of what was to come, and together they faced what lay ahead, changing the course they thought was set in stone. Would it crack open the doors to their new beginnings, or would it pull them back into their old shadows? Bennett watched as Eric dabbed the brush onto the canvas, hesitation gradually melting away with each stroke. The soft swish of bristles mixed with the rhythm of rain tapping against the window. That sound, it was like a symphony for the soul, a reminder of how the world kept turning even when the storm clouds loomed large. "See?" Bennett encouraged. "There's something in you that's begging to come out." Eric's brow furrowed in concentration, the frown deepening as he focused on a shape emerging. "I don't know what this is yet," he admitted, his voice crackling like the paint under his brush. "But I feel like it needs to be something more than just a painting. That's the beauty of art," Bennett replied, stepping closer. "It doesn't have to make sense right away. Just trust yourself. Let it reveal itself in time." As the rain continued to pour outside, an unexpected knock echoed through the studio, merging with the symphony and causing both men to jump slightly. Eric's hand froze mid-stroke, eyes wide with alarm. "Who could that be?" he murmured, tension lacing his tone. Bennett felt the sudden rush of protectiveness surge inside him. "I'll check." He moved toward the door, a sense of unease curling in his stomach. Upon opening it, he was greeted by a familiar face, one that sent a jolt of surprise through the core of his being. It was Hannah, Eric's older sister. Her eyes gleamed with worry, mismatched with her shaky smile. "General Bennett," she breathed, as if she had just run a marathon. "I'm so sorry to intrude. I've been trying to reach Eric." Her voice trailed off when she caught sight of her brother. "Oh, good you're here. What's wrong?" Eric's voice was cautious, like a deer caught in headlights. Hannah stepped inside, pushing her wet coat back off her shoulders. "I didn't mean to interrupt, but I received an unexpected phone call." From someone I never thought I'd hear from again. The room seemed to grow heavy with her words. Bennett glanced at Eric, who was visibly tensing, the paintbrush poised in the air. What do you mean? Eric asked, a mix of confusion and concern swirling in his gaze. It's about your father, Hannah said, her voice cracking. The words landed between them like a weighty stone. Eric's expression shifted instantaneously. My father? The surprise drowned out any remnants of concern he held moments ago. Yes, she whispered. He wants to see you. He says he has something important to tell you. Bennett felt the air shift, thickening with unspoken emotions. An old wound had been reopened. He could almost see the shadows creeping back into Eric's expression, the fear, the uncertainty. You know how he can be, Eric stammered, looking lost all over again. But beneath the surface of fear lay a flicker of curiosity. Why now? I don't know. But it might be something you need to hear, Eric. Hannah stepped forward, trying to connect with him. You've come so far. Maybe this is a part of your journey. Bennett remained silent, caught in between the dynamics of the two siblings. Each heartbeat echoed the yearning for understanding, resolution, and maybe even healing. Eric's gaze drifted back to the canvas, once full of hope, now reflecting uncertainty. What if he hesitated? The vulnerability in his voice putty in Bennett's hands. What if I'm not ready for this? Then we'll face it together, Bennett offered firmly. Whatever it is. You're not alone in this, remember? Eric took a deep breath, his eyes slightly shining. I just don't know if I can bear another disappointment. Life comes with risks, Eric, Bennett said, locking eyes with him. But every leap you take could lead you closer to the light you're looking for. As hope flickered back to life between them, the air shifted once more, carrying the weight of unspoken questions and unrealized fears. Whatever lay waiting, be it revelation or ruin, they felt the pull to dive into the unknown. And just as Bennett steeled himself to dive into the conversation with them, another knock came at the door, more insistent this time, sending a chill down his spine. What now? Together they braced themselves for whatever mystery would come through that door next. Would it be the moment that ignited the truth, or would it undo everything they had fought to build? Bennett exchanged a glance with Eric, a shared concern dancing in the air between them. Each knock reverberated in the room, intensifying the tension that had already enveloped the three of them. Do you want me to get it? Eric asked, his voice wavering slightly as he broke from their gaze. Every part of him seemed poised on edge, confusion and fear warring within him. I'll handle it, Bennett replied. His heart pounded in sync with the persistent knocking. He didn't want Eric to feel more overwhelmed. He wanted him to focus on what mattered, the conversation about their father. With a quick nod of determination, Bennett opened the door again, finding a delivery person standing there, drenched and slightly out of breath. Sorry to interrupt. Package for Eric, the young man said, his eyes widening slightly as he realized the tension in the atmosphere. Thank you, Bennett replied, accepting the box and closing the door swiftly behind him. He turned back to find Eric's expression, a mix of curiosity and hesitation, a flare of distraction taking root amidst the brewing storm of emotions. What's that? Eric's voice was softer now, drawing closer, his fear momentarily supplanted by a sense of mystery. Just a package. Open it, Bennett urged, hoping it could shift the mood. Eric's hands shook slightly as he started tearing at the edges. Inside, he found a carefully wrapped canvas, an enormous piece of white stretching before him like an untouched possibility. The surface was blank, but it held weight, anticipation curling into the air. Who sent this? He murmured, his confusion mingling with excitement. I don't know, Bennett admitted. It's not a usual delivery, but what if it's someone trying to push me? My father? Or Eric's voice cracked again, anticipation mixing with anxiety. Hannah stepped closer, her gaze on her brother. Maybe it's meant to remind you of your journey. The blank canvas is a chance to start anew. Bennett watched as Eric's shoulders softened just a bit, the idea taking root and spreading throughout his body. A new journey, Eric echoed, looking down. His breath was shaky but lighter, as if a flicker of courage sparked somewhere inside him. "Do you really think it's that simple?" Eric asked, barely above a whisper. "Is it just about painting over the past?" Bennett felt the weight of Eric's question hang like a fog. "It can be about more than just painting, Eric. It's about confronting what you feel. The past is part of who you are, but it doesn't have to define you." As Eric studied the blank canvas, Bennett sensed a shift in the air, something warm and inviting. This moment could be different, a chance to latch onto hope instead of fear. Yet, as they stood there, the heaviness of Hannah's words about their father circled like a storm cloud, threatening to roll back in. "What if this is too much?" Eric asked, his vulnerability creeping back in. "What if I don't know how to fill that canvas?" "Then you start with just a line. Or a color. You can make it whatever you want. Doesn't have to be perfect," Bennett said. "And if your father is part of that's still part of your journey." The words hung in the air, a mix of trepidation and encouragement. Eric hesitated, weighing the options: risk the pain of disappointment or step onto the path of self-discovery. But before he could respond, another knock came at the door, louder this time, as if fate itself was insistent. "What now?" Bennett asked again, more to himself than anyone else. "What if it's someone else?" Hannah whispered, a sense of dread creeping back into her voice. "The universe hasn't done with us yet," Bennett replied as they all turned, hearts racing, bodies tense. Because whatever was behind that door could be the reality check they needed or the storm they'd all been avoiding. Would it bring them closer to healing, or tear them apart once more? Eric took a deep breath, ready to face the unknown. And as the door creaked open, they all braced for what would come next. The door swung open slowly, revealing a woman standing there, her face familiar yet shrouded in uncertainty. It took a moment for Bennett to fully register the surprise: a woman who had once been a pillar in Eric's life. "Claire?" he asked, disbelief threading through his voice. Eric blinked, his eyes wide. Claire had been his art teacher, the one who had sparked his creative flame before the shadows of their father's issues dimmed it. "What are you doing here?" Eric's tone mingled with confusion and hope. Claire stepped inside, water still dripping from her coat. She seemed to absorb the charged atmosphere, her gaze flickering between the three of them. "I saw the package being delivered. I thought maybe I could help." Bennett felt Eric's body radiate uncertainty. "Help with what?" He pushed gently, sensing a storm behind Claire's calm veneer. "Help him with his canvas," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm. "Art can be a guide. It's where we explore feelings, even difficult ones, like your father." The mention of their father hung between them like a thick fog. Eric's face tightened as memories of bygone days tumbled forward, moments that were either painted in warmth or shadowed in pain. "You really think I can do this?" he asked, uncertainty still threaded around his words. "Absolutely," Claire assured him, stepping closer, a spark of encouragement in her eyes. "Everyone has a story. The canvas is just waiting for you to tell yours." Facing her, Eric felt the weight of possibility lift slightly. He was much calmer now, as if the mere presence of an ally brought back some of the color that life had drained from him. "But what if I draw my father in a way that hurts me?" "That's okay," Claire replied, her tone steady. "Art isn't about perfection. It's about honesty. It might hurt to show those feelings, but it could also help you heal." Bennett watched his brother grapple with the reality. He could see an internal struggle, a myriad of emotions flickering across Eric's face. "Do I really want to go back to that pain?" Eric's words felt heavy, laden with a truth that had spun within him for too long. "Sometimes, facing the past can lead you to better places," Claire encouraged, her eyes never leaving his. "You control what you paint. Use it to express what you feel, whether it's anger, sadness, or even forgiveness." As her words sank in, the room seemed to soften. The tension that had gripped Eric loosened, allowing fleeting moments of understanding to creep in. "I guess I never thought about it like that," he admitted, a glimmer of resilience igniting within him. Bennett felt a swell of pride for his brother. This moment, brimming with potential, felt like a turning point. But then the reality of the situation crashed back in. And what if our father shows up while I'm doing this? Eric's voice quivered again, armor of courage beginning to crack. Then you confront him, Hannah interjected, stepping toward her brother. You've been avoiding him out of fear. It's time to take control of your world. You deserve this. The silence that wrapped around them felt sacred, filled with possibility. With every second, Eric's resolve grew stronger. Okay, he finally said, breaths deepening, I'll start painting. I can't promise it'll be great, but I'll give it a shot. A fragile smile broke free on Claire's face, warmth spreading through the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. But just as that flicker of hope seemed resolute, another knock echoed through the room. It carried a brooding weight, a sense that fate wasn't done with them yet. What now? Bennett glanced nervously at the door, anxiety clawing up his throat. The three of them exchanged uncertain glances. What awaited them on the other side could reshape everything they were beginning to understand. Maybe it's your father, Claire suggested, her voice a mix of hope and worry. Eric's face paled, the warmth draining as he stepped back, his breath rapid and uneven. Would he face the shadows of his past head-on, or let fear dictate his next step? As the door creaked open again, the world outside the room seemed less certain, and the air thickened with possibilities and fears yet to be confronted. What awaited them could either unravel all of this new courage or bind them together more tightly than ever. They all braced for the moment that could change everything. The door opened wider, revealing the figure of a man drenched in shadows, a man they all recognized too well. It was their father, his presence invading the space with an unsettling intensity. He looked older, wearier, as if the burdens of his choices had carved deeper lines into his face and soul. Eric, he said, his voice gruff and hesitant, as if he were testing each word before letting it slip out into the open air. Eric's body stiffened. The warmth from Claire's earlier encouragement seemed to vanish, replaced by a rush of cold fear coiling in his stomach. Bennett could feel it too, the tension thick enough to slice. What do you want? Eric asked, his tone trembling between anger and the flicker of hope he'd begun to nurture. I wanted to see how you're doing, their father replied, pausing before adding, I know things have been difficult. Around them, silence stretched like a canvas ready for paint, filled with unspoken words. Claire stepped forward, standing firm between the boys and their father. This isn't your time, Sam. Eric is trying to find his voice. He flinched slightly, the weight of her words striking him. I know that, but I'm still his father only when it suits you. Bennett interrupted, standing beside Eric, filled with an unexpected surge of defiance. You've been absent for too long. Why now? Their father's gaze fell, a shadow crossing his features. I want to change, he murmured, as if he were trying that concept out like an unfamiliar taste. Eric felt a mix of skepticism and longing. He had spent so long wishing for an apology, for an explanation that made sense of the turmoil he'd endured. But could he allow himself to hope for change? The memories rushed in nights spent listening to arguments, mornings filled with silence. Each recollection felt like an artist's brush splattering an array of colors, some dark, others gleaming with dreams unfulfilled. I don't know if I can do this, Eric stated, his voice barely more than a whisper, yet it broke through the tension like a small storm. Then let me help you, Sam pleaded, desperation filtering through the cracks of his bravado. I want to be here for you. I'm ready to face what I've created. A strange silence hung again as Eric searched his father's eyes, looking for a hint of truth in the storm of regrets. There was a moment where he thought he saw something real, buried beneath layers of hurt and expectations, but doubt clouded around it. Your art, let it tell our story, his father continued, voice shaking. There's a reason we're here now, Eric. After all, it's not just about pain. It's also about healing. With those words, a spark ignited within Eric. Art was meant to capture every facet of life, good and bad. But could he use it to work through his anger towards his father, to confront his fears and still find a way to forgive? Claire quietly backed away, giving them space, sensing the heaviness hanging between father and son. Bennett stood firm, his protective stance not faltering. Facing the past, Eric mumbled, the wheels in his mind turning. You think it could really help? Yes, Sam responded earnestly. I believe it can. Suddenly, the shadows felt lighter, though the uncertainty still lingered. Eric's fears were valid, but so were his hopes. Picking up a paintbrush wouldn't erase their history, but it could be the first step towards creating something new. Just as that thought began to settle, the door creaked once more. Another presence loomed behind their father, displacing the tenuous balance they had begun to forge. Eric's heart raced. He glanced at Bennett, who looked just as apprehensive. Who else is there? As they collectively turned their heads, anticipation curled tightly around them, the next moment threatening to either shatter their small resolve or bind them with a stronger thread than before. What could this new arrival mean for the fragile steps Eric was just beginning to take? The door swung open wider, revealing a woman framed in the soft glow spilling into the dim room. Her silhouette was familiar, yet it seemed almost ghostly, as if she had stepped out of a long-forgotten memory and into this fraught moment. A wave of mixed emotions surged through Eric: confusion, relief, and a slow, simmering anger. Megan? He whispered, his voice cracking. It was their mother, a name steeped in both love and pain, a figure he'd spent years yearning to understand. She hadn't been a part of their lives for so long that her sudden appearance felt surreal, like a mirage shimmering in a vast desert. Mom? Bennett echoed, his voice including both disbelief and hope. Megan took a hesitant step forward, her eyes darting between the boys and Sam, who remained frozen like a statue behind them. I didn't know you were all here, she stammered, glancing at their father. Sam, we need to talk. The air in the room thickened, suspense settling around them. Eric felt the heat of resentment creeping up his spine. He didn't want to share this moment with her, not when everything felt so fragile. You think you can just waltz back in and pretend like you belong? He shot at her, a pent-up whirlwind of frustration and hurt unleashing in a single breath. Megan recoiled slightly but held her ground. I'm not here to pretend, Eric. I know I've hurt you, both of you. She faltered, glancing at Sam, who looked like he was holding his breath. I had my reasons. Your reasons? Bennett scoffed, anger lifting his chin. What reasons could possibly justify abandoning us? His voice cracked, betraying the many years of pain swirling underneath. Believe me, I didn't want to leave. It was complicated. I thought it was best for you both. Her voice trailed off as regret washed over her face. Best for us? Eric interjected, venom in each word. You mean best for you? You left us with him. He pointed towards Sam, the man who had tried and failed to fill the void she left behind. It was a mistake, Megan admitted, her voice breaking. Tears glimmered in her eyes, reflecting a lifetime of heartache. But I'm here now. I want to make amends. The words hung in the air, heavy with hope and skepticism. Eric's heart raced. The battle between wanting to embrace his mother and wishing she'd never returned roiling dangerously within him. Could she really want to heal? Could he believe that she might be genuine about making things right? Sam stepped forward, his face wavering between anger and helplessness. You've both been through so much, he said, trying to steer the conversation away from escalation. If there's any hope to mend what's broken, it starts with honesty. For once, Bennett added, crossing his arms, echoing a tone that suggested he would not tolerate any more lies. Megan wiped her face, fingers trembling. I want to tell you everything. My choices, my fears. I didn't think I thought it was better to stay away. Better for whom? Eric muttered, desperately needing to shield himself. But a tiny flicker within him began to shift, an ember of curiosity mingled with anger. Let me explain, Megan urged, stepping closer. I want to be a part of your lives again, if you're willing to give me a chance. She searched their faces, hope mingling with vulnerability. As her words echoed painfully amongst the walls, Eric's emotions tightened into a knot. The weight of old grudges collided with the desire for something more, something like a family. Would he be able to open that door, even just a crack? A sharp intake of breath brought his attention back to Sam. "This isn't just about you two," he said, voice steady. "This impacts everyone here. We have to decide if we can face these truths together." The air felt electric at that moment. Each person standing on the cusp of possibility, the potential for healing lay in their hands. Yet the brand of betrayal lingered thick in the atmosphere. Heart pounding, Eric took a tentative step forward, his voice almost a whisper. "Are you really ready to face the past?" Megan's eyes widened and Eric wondered if they could dig through the rubble of their shared history, the years lost, and probably find something beautiful. But a darker shadow lingered in the corners of his mind, uncertain if hope was truly enough. Just then, Clara's soft voice broke the silence, bringing everyone back down to earth. What happens next? In that question hung everything what the future might hold, and whether they had the strength to confront the echoes of their past. And in that moment of uncertainty, Eric felt the ground shift beneath him, propelling him toward a truth that might change everything. The silence that followed Claire's question was almost deafening, pressing against them like a heavy fog. Eric felt the eyes in the room rest on him, their collective gaze heavy with anticipation. What did come next? Could they really navigate the maze of past grievances and broken promises? Or would the walls of hurt only thicken around them? Megan seemed to sense the tension. She took a deep breath, drawing strength from an invisible well. "I know it's going to take time," she said, her voice quieter now, almost fragile. "I'm not expecting you both to welcome me back with open arms. But I want to try. I have so much to share about why I left and the things I regret." Eric clenched his fists, his heart racing with conflicting emotions. Part of him wanted to scream, to demand why they had to talk about the past when it felt like the present was crumbling around them. But another part, the part that still wished for a maternal bond, longed to hear her story, to understand her reasons. "Why should we believe you?" Bennett's voice broke the tension, sharper than he intended, yet undeniably fueled by genuine fear. Megan's eyes fell to the floor for a moment before rising to meet his. "Because I'm standing here, facing you both. I have no way of knowing what your lives have been like without me, but I know they haven't been easy." Her voice trembled. "I can't undo the hurt I've caused, but I want to make things right. If you'll let me." Eric shifted, his insides a battlefield. He wanted to scoff, to tell her that a few words wouldn't heal the gaping wounds she had created. But there was something in her eyes, a glimmer of remorse that made him hesitate. "Can we really believe you're here for good?" Sam finally broke in, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. "You disappeared once, and now you think we'll just trust you? What if you just leave again?" Each question hung in the thick air, their sharpness cutting deeper than intended. Megan's shoulders slumped slightly, and for a moment, Eric couldn't help but feel a flicker of sympathy. She was standing against the tide of their anger, exposing her vulnerabilities, while they held the power to either embrace or push her away. "I want to leave again," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "This time, I'm here to stay, and I want to hear your truth too. I know I need to own up to my past, but I'd like a chance to understand yours. I want to know everything." Eric caught Bennett's expression. His brother seemed both alarmed and thoughtful, wrestling with the idea of opening up about the years of pain they had both experienced. Despite the punch of anger still lodged in his throat, Eric felt his heart inch toward something akin to hope. "Starting with the day you left," Bennett said finally, an edge to his voice but a fragile openness that flickered to life. "Tell us why you really did it." Megan nodded, steeling herself as she started to weave the narrative of a past entwined with regrets and pain, a tale Eric could hardly fathom, but one that pulled him in like a magnet. As her story began to unfold, the harsh edges of Eric's anger softened. Each word painted a picture he had never seen before, a mother's lifetime of fears and demons that drove her away. Questions bubbled in him, demanding to be voiced, yet they felt overshadowed by the weight of her revelation. And just as the room began to breathe again, the phone on the table buzzed violently, shattering the newly acquired tranquility. Everyone paused, faces shifting toward the noise, as if reminding them how close they still were to chaos. Eric's heart raced as he leaned to grab the phone, an uneasiness creeping back in. What now? When he glanced at the screen, the name made his stomach drop. It was a number he recognized too well, a reminder of the past he had been trying to forget. As he slipped the phone up and read the message aloud, the room recoiled, still caught in the fragile thread of new beginnings. And with that ominous text, the fragile atmosphere shattered once again, leaving them teetering dangerously on the brink of old struggles and new challenges. What lay ahead? Were they really ready to face it all together? Eric's heart thudded loudly in his chest, drowning out Megan's voice as the words on the screen made his eyes widen. "It's from Dad," he said, disbelief curling in his gut. "He's in town, and he wants to meet." The silence that followed was thick enough to slice through. All eyes turned to the instant reflection of fear that crossed Bennett's face. This wasn't just another family gathering. This was a storm brewing, a tempest that threatened to break the fragile truce they had just started to negotiate. Megan's expression turned sharp. "What does he want?" she asked, taking a step closer as if to shield herself, as if she could disappear into them. Eric looked from his mother to Bennett, who appeared frozen in place, staring into the void. Clenching the phone tighter, he opened the message again. "I don't know. He just says what?" Bennett interrupted, voice strained, knuckles whitening as his fists tightened. "He isn't coming to do anything good." Eric's throat felt dry. Their father had a track record of creating chaos. "He says he wants to talk," Eric finally muttered, wishing he could drop the phone and pretend this ordeal wasn't happening. Megan stepped back, her vulnerability replaced momentarily by a wall of tension. How do you even know he's not lying? He was never honest with us before." "Exactly," Sam piped up, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. "What makes this time any different?" "It doesn't mean we can ignore him forever," Eric replied, caught between debunking his brother's doubt and the fear that pooled in his own gut. Maybe this is an opportunity." "Opportunity for what?" Bennett's tone rose. "To let him hurt us again." Megan lifted her chin, sensing the defensiveness, the fear in the room. "Maybe if he's reaching out now, it means something has changed. Isn't that worth considering? We could hear him out. Together." Eric let her words wash over him. Could they really defy the season of hurt they had lived through for so long? Felt impossible. Every story he held onto about his father came rushing back like a parade of shadows, threatening to drown out the light. "I don't know," Bennett breathed, running a hand through his hair, frustration and exhaustion mingling in his eyes. "What if it's all a trap? We just started to piece things together and now this?" Megan looked down, her posture deflating slightly. "We can't just run from him. I've been MIA for years. I understand if you both don't want to meet. But I feel like if I can confront my reality, you can too." The tension in the room coiled tighter. Eric saw how her pleadings seemed to resonate with Bennett, each brother clinging to a part of the past, unsure whether to greet it or brace against it. In a heartbeat, Eric's thoughts collided with his instincts. He inhaled deeply, the air tense and electric. "We could set boundaries," he suggested, his voice steadier than he felt. "We can control how this plays out." "Boundaries," Sam echoed, contemplating. "That sounds safer. Are we really doing this?" Bennett let out a breath, eyes darting between the three of them as if searching for a spark of solidarity. With a sudden hit of resolve, Eric finally nodded. "We face him together. Whatever happens, we do this as a family." Megan's eyes shimmered, encouraged by the shifting atmosphere. "Right. Together." Just as they began to find their footing, the phone buzzed again, startling them to the core. Eric's heart dropped as he read the follow-up message, "Meet me at our old place. Tomorrow. Just us." The very thought made the air grow heavy, the ghosts of their past circling once more, leaving them trembling on the edge of uncertainty. "Tomorrow," Bennett whispered, the wheels turning in his mind. "Are we really ready for this?" Eric asked, fear prickling at his neck. And as they glanced at each other, the questions loomed large. Could they handle whatever reunion awaited? What truths would rise to the surface this time? They had opened a door that couldn't be closed, and now they must decide how to step through it together. The day arrived with a cloudy sky, the air thick with anticipation. Eric stood in front of the mirror, fingers tracing the edges of the canvas he had painted the night before. It was a depiction of fragility, intertwining hues of anger and hope. A family broken, yet yearning for reconnection. It echoed everything that lay ahead, exactly what he wanted to face. He met Bennett and Hannah in the kitchen, their faces mirrors of anxiety and determination. Do we really have to do this? Hannah's voice trembled slightly, forcing Eric to offer her a nod. We can't keep running from our past. I know, Bennett admitted, rubbing his temples as though trying to massage away the doubts. But we can set rules. No matter what he says, we hold firm and together. Eric couldn't shake off the tightness around his chest. They all knew the man they would be meeting was not the father they had seen in posters or images, but a figure draped in shadows, a man shaped by decisions he could hardly comprehend. As they approached the old house, a wave of memories surged through Eric's childhood laughs, forgotten birthday celebrations, and the nights filled with resentment. The peeling paint seemed to whisper their shared history, as familiar as it was painful. Ready? Bennett's question hung in the air, breaking Eric from his reverie. Between them, the quiet assurance that they would face this together filled him with a fresh wave of resolve. When they stepped inside, the air felt stagnant, thick with unexpressed emotions. Sam sat on the worn couch, visibly tensed, gaze fixed on the door like a predator waiting for prey. The tension in the air grew electric. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown. And then it came, a knock that punctured the silence. A ghost from their past demanding entry. Stay close, Bennett whispered, eyes locked on Eric as he walked to answer the door. The father they had feared loomed in the entryway, a mixture of shame and defiance etched on his face. Eric, he began, voice trembling. I'm here. Let us just be honest with each other. Eric whispered back, confidence laced with a tremor. Whatever this is about, remember that we're tired of lies. Their father took a hesitant step inside, and Eric could see the years of regret lining his eyes. I want to make things right, he said, voice strained. I want my family back. Family? Eric's voice caught, something bitter pooling in his throat. You walked away from us. You can't just waltz in now claiming that. I know, but I was a different man then. Sam replied, desperation bleeding into his tone. I'm ready to face everything I've done. I've been working on myself. For how long? Bennett interjected, arms crossed stubbornly. And how do we know this time will be different? I just need you to give me a chance. Sam pleaded, eyes flickering with vulnerability. You have the right to be angry, but I need you to hear me out. There are things you don't know, things I didn't feel safe sharing. Each word felt coated in raw honesty. Eric could see his father fighting for breath, fighting for something they all longed for. But doubt nagged at him like a persistent itch. Could he afford to trust this man? One chance, Eric finally said, heart racing as Sam nodded eagerly. But don't think it'll be easy. That's fair, their father replied solemnly. Just let me speak. Whatever I say today, I want to own it. As the family settled into the living room, there was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Sam shared untold stories of his own struggles, of demons that haunted him in the quiet of night. Each revelation peeled back layers of anger and hurt layered within them, all tethered by a common history. Hours passed like seconds as they wrestled through their pain, stumbling through honesty that danced like a flame, sometimes flickering, sometimes blazing bright. Eric could see how the weight of his father's truth lightened. With every word, they slowly chipped away at the thick wall of silence that had trapped them in loneliness for years. What about Mom? Eric finally dared to ask, voice quaking under the strain of exposure. Why did she leave? Sam's shoulders sagged at the mention of her name. I pushed her away, Eric. After years of my own mistakes, she was too hurt, too lost. I didn't treat her right. In that moment, Eric felt an old hurt twisting in his heart. But paradoxically, a desire for forgiveness flickered faintly. That doesn't excuse abandoning us, he replied, voice steady yet soft. No, it doesn't, Sam responded, eyes glistening with remorse. And I know it's too late to ask for forgiveness. But I wish I could handled things differently. The air thickened again. Eric closed his eyes momentarily, weaving through memories that felt like daggers and lifelines all at once. As they continued to talk, rawness spilled like paint across that empty canvas they had kept hidden for too long. A realization began to seep in. They didn't need to return to the echoes of their painful past. They could forge something new, a path leading to healing. The door creaked slightly. Hannah had been quiet for the most part, but when she finally spoke, her voice was like a soft balm. I found it hard to envision a future with the old you, Dad. But maybe with time, hope, we can build something better. Each word hung in the air, a promise, a commitment. Sam nodded slowly, recognizing the mountains ahead but willing to scale them for his family. Thank you for giving me this chance, he whispered, emotion thick in his throat. And as they each shifted in their chairs, the light filtering through the dusty windows ignited something at the center of the room, a flicker of hope, wrapped in vulnerability, authenticity, and a newfound kinship. Eric felt a rush of warmth, realizing that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the weight of shared burdens together. We can take steps, Eric said slowly, his voice steady. Let us start painting a new picture, one that includes all of us. And with that, they began realizing paths toward healing had emerged from the deepest scars, like sunlight filtering through dark clouds, paving the way for everything they could become. Together, they embraced the uncertainty ahead because every shared journey, no matter how fraught, is worth facing together. Now it's your chance to support this channel. Subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the positivity flowing. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your thoughts matter to us. And don't wait not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Remember, only true fans know the importance of supporting our journey.